With season 2 ending of JJK and the Culling games coming in the next season, before that even happens, Maki has one of the best written power-ups of any character in manga, in my opinion, also carrying its controversies as well in the process. Zenin Maki is one of the most complex characters in the story of Jujustu Kaisen. She's also one whose motivations we know a great deal about already due to her being featured in the prequel and her continued development in the main series. Vengeance is a key aspect of Maki becoming who she becomes in the story, and describing those character traits will be vital to understanding those beliefs that she has of wanting to destroy the old Jujutsu world and creating a new one with different dynamics. Her character, she represents one of the main themes of the series, a conflict between defining yourself individually by who you are and what standards you set, or by defining yourself by the people around you, conforming or going with the expectations of other people. Maki struggles to be an individual in the world that has already written her off as a failure is pretty central to the themes of the story. Maki is caught in a pretty classic want and need conflict. All stories are rooted in a character's conflict. Maki's conflict is with herself as much as it is with the Zenin clan. A want is at its simplest. The thing your character wants is the plot goal, whereas the want is a different equivalent of the plot goal. The thing that the character needs is a direct correlative of the thematic theme. Whatever the truth your story is posting about reality, that is the ultimate thing the character needs. A want is oftentimes something the character defines for themselves. It's what motivates them to move forward, whereas the need is what the story itself says they need in order to grow. You don't make a character change by giving them exactly what they want, which is why we want and need are often in conflict with one another. In most cases, a character grows over the course of the story to realize their need in the end. They want motivates them. The need is their resolution. What Maki wants is to be recognized as an individual. She wants to prove her family wrong. Her family has already defined her as a failure, just like how Geto sees her, because she has no natural talent for Jujutsu sorcery, for her own family has denied that she's even a person. She's constantly dehumanized by them. If she's not useful for Jujutsu sorcery, she's nothing at all. For Maki, being her own person and living for herself, her own ambitions, is an act of rebellion against her family who want to deny her everything. Maki's want is almost childish sense of revenge, as I told you so. She wants to prove the people that dismissed her wrong by proving she's better than them. She wants to make the Zenin clan bow their heads to her. Wants are not a bad thing at all. They are what motivates the character to move forward. Maki's spiteful ambition, the fact that she wants is basically no better than revenge, is neither good nor bad thing in the context of the story. It's her driving force. Maki is allowed to be spiteful and angry at the way her family treated her. Yuta, who is basically one of the most soft-hearted and understanding characters in the prequel, completely approves of her ambitions. The fact that she's selfishly motivated and the fact that she wants to do all the things for herself, her strong sense of individuality, are not bad things. They are just the things that make Maki, Maki. In fact, rebelling is basically the only way Maki can be an individual. Her urge to destroy her family is not presented to us as a bad thing, but rather something necessary for Maki to truly grow and be herself. However, once again, a want is not the entire answer. You don't make characters change by giving them what they want. Maki wanting to be stronger than anyone in her family, her focus and individual strength above all else. None of these are bad. However, it's not entirely what she needs either. Look at what she says, don't go feeling like you got accepted. It's almost like some part of Maki is afraid of those feelings of acceptance. She feels like family is something she has to throw away in order to be strong. I do not mean in the sense that Maki will not work with people on her team. She clearly has the ability to form connections with people as friends, get along with others, and even cooperate with them as a team and care for her comrades. However, she never lets her feelings go any deeper than that. She's gone so long without unconditional love and acceptance that she feels like she has to destroy her own need for such a thing. Maki has two significant foils in the series who share the same conflict, choosing between your individual development and strength and your need to be accepted by the people around you, by which pushing people away that you love deep down, but you don't want to accept the feelings you have for someone that you care about even though they didn't do anything wrong. That is where Mai comes in. As we know, Mai is a character that just wants to live in a quiet life without hardship. Born into a clan that obsesses over power and lacks humanity, she wanted to live in a background. Maki could not and would not conform to that lifestyle. She desires to showcase her strength and crush the ideology of the Zenin clan. Mai was then thrust into becoming a sorcerer by her clan because of Maki. Mai, fearful of the curses and the gruesome nature of the Jujutsu world, just wanted to escape it all. This was not possible, however. Mai, at the time of the Kyoto event, hated Maki because her desire to prove her strength and become the head of the clan thrust Mai into the Jujutsu world. However, just as much as she hated Maki at the time, she hated herself as well. Hated that she had no desire to grow stronger, to aid her sister, and destroy the system that ruined their lives. She wanted to stay by her sister's side and and live free from the curses and hardship. Now, the events of this chapter and the accumulation of Mai's life in the physical world, Mai and Maki are linked not just in their bond they share as sisters, but linked as Jujutsu sorcerers, sharing the same placenta during the time of their creation. Their mind, body, and soul are linked. They are viewed as one individual sorcerer because of this. Things like binding vows and even heavenly restrictions can't be used to their fullest extent, no matter what they sacrifice or what painful experiences they encounter alone, because their abilities as sorcerers are intertwined, like the placenta they shared during the creation of their life. This is why twins are bad omens. For Maki to grow stronger, Mai would have to want to grow stronger. We know Mai has no intention though as a character to do so. She wants to escape the Jujutsu world entirely. So faced with the impending death of her sister at the hands of their father and the curses locked within the training room, she does and achieves something that no one in the story thus far has been able to do: die a proper and natural death. She dies in a way without pain, without struggle, yet without meaning. She chose herself the way she died. There was nothing more idealistic than that. She died while allowing her sister, the person she loved the most, to achieve a potential that she never would have been able to do or to have if she continued to exist. Not because it was impossible, but because Mai as a character would never struggle to improve as a sorcerer because she hated being one in the first place. In Mai's last creation, she created a weapon that would be used to bring destruction to the clan that she brought them so much suffering. Her last creation, held by Maki, will never be let go, which is what Mai always wanted. Those who internalize and understand the core themes of death and the art of death in JJK, setting and story-wise, should see the beauty and meaningfulness of how Mai's death would not only serve Maki, but to herself as well, which carries over to the accounting of the description of her new powers and being equal to the strength and abilities of Toji Fushiguro. Maki and Fushiguro Toji were both born in the Zenin clan, and both suffer from the same inability to see cursed spirits. While at first the comparison may look like a positive one for Maki, Maki is choosing to stay inside the system and work to prove herself better than what her family told her. She was then going to completely go rogue and living as a mercenary for money just like Toji did. However, essentially both of them made the same choice. They chose power and their own personal ambitions over their family. The first thing we learned about Toji in the story is that he left his son behind and practically forgot about him. While Maki is not responsible for her twin sister the same way that Toji is responsible for his son, apparently, they still both believe that they have to throw away those kind of family connections in order to survive as an individual. They don't allow themselves to feel that connection. Toji seems to live in entirely for himself and to prove others wrong about him. He has the same want as Maki to be stronger than the Jujutsu sorcerers who dismissed him. They just chose a different path. Maki works from the inside, whereas Megumi, this late in his life, has completely outside the system. Toji is a lot more spiteful than Maki towards talented people. Maki's more self-directed and doesn't blame everybody around her for her circumstances so much. She's a lot more focused on herself and her own sense of self-improvement. However, both of them have an extreme amount of self-awareness and use that to push themselves to develop their bodies to the absolute limit. Toji is someone who is incredibly aware of his own limits, and rather than making him unmotivated, it causes him to be extremely strategic thinker and also push his body beyond even what most Jujutsu sorcerers are capable of. He makes excuses for his own violent behavior because he has nothing but a reject and a monkey, and he doesn't let other people's talent be an excuse for him to be weak. When he sees Gojo fighting him at full power, he doesn't hesitate or run away. He literally approaches the situation with extreme amount of determination that believing he can overcome it. As a person, he's practically a disaster, always eating fast food, gambling, leaving his son behind, and acting immature and irresponsible with his business partners, whereas Maki is much more cold and composed. However, this behavior stems from the fact that Toji, like Maki, has focused her entire life around fighting, and therefore everywhere else he's underdeveloped as a person. He's the extreme result of Maki's belief that if he's stronger than her family, that will somehow fix what is missing inside of her. Toji even says he believed the only way to go against his family and continue believing himself or being himself was to twist his personality like this, that he had no choice but to become this way in order to deny what his family said about him. However, what Toji regrets as he was dying is not that he wasn't strong enough. He doesn't even regret becoming a criminal or rebelling against the Jujutsu world. What he regrets is that he threw away his family in the process. What he wanted was to be strong. What he needed was a family. Maki and Toji are not exactly the same, but Toji is a cautionary tale that shows us that Maki's choice to regret, understanding, and accepting is unhealthy behavior. It's what she wants and not what she needs, and the things are not mutually exclusive. Maki can both pursue her own individual strength at the same time accept others around her. The manga has always advocated finding a balance and reconciliation between the two, rather than one as being more important than the other, just like her conflict with her sister. Beating her sister in a fight proves nothing. What Maki needs is the reconciliation, the ability to understand her sister's feelings, and also have her sister be able to understand her own. She needs those connections to be an individual. We are defined by ourselves. We are defined by people around us. It's not either or, it's both at the same time. Maki's choice isn't even a choice she necessarily needs to make. She's allowed to choose both. Maki's awakening has the same heavily restriction as Toji, which grants her superhuman abilities in exchange for cursed energy. However, in the Jujutsu world, twins are like one being. While normally Maki would have 0 curse energy, the curse energy that Mai possesses was considered Maki's curse energy due to them being one, which prevented Maki's heavily restriction from operating at full potential. Mai's curse technique lets her create objects, but the process is very draining, which is why she can only create 1 bullet per day. Mai pushed past her limit while also badly injured and created an entire sword using all her curse energy, leading to her death, of course. By dying, Mai's curse energy was removed from this world, and this means Maki's curse energy was removed from this world. With Maki now having 0 curse energy, her heavenly restriction was finally on the same level as Toji's, increasing her physical abilities to the absolute peak and allow her to kill her father, basically. There is a meaning to explaining Maki in this sort of way, because there's a bigger picture here. I want to connect and analyze her character with a broader picture now in display. The moral implications of her revenge in the Zenin clan, and it fits with a larger theme of the narrative/story. First, one of the most notable things about Jujustu Kaisen is how explicitly it condemns the system within it. It doesn't minder around the point or try to ignore it. Jujutsu society and the fundamental flaw within it are mentioned time and time again, and further reinforced by the actions those in power take. However, the narrative does seem to imply an unwillingness to resort to a violent takeover. As Gojo explains the problem with this point of view in the early chapters, his reasoning is solid. It makes more sense to facilitate a change within the system itself as opposed to violently resetting it, as the latter will only sow more seeds of distrust. The only issue with this plan is if the system is too rigid to actually be reset from the inside. To migrate this, Gojo is setting up his students to make this change as opposed to just himself. Now, it's important to note that while it's not said directly, I think we can subtextually infer that Gojo isn't naive. I am sure that he expects at least some bloodshed during this change, which is another reason why he's training his students to be as strong as possible. The system will fight back, and the students need to be ready to deal with it if possible. So Gojo's plan is pretty solid, but there's a single flaw with it: the viewpoint from which he looks at it from. Despite having these ideals, Gojo has benefited from the system just as much as any other male sorcerer. While the higher up conservatives may fear him, they can't actually do much about them. Gojo pretty much has free reign to do whatever he wants as an individual. Sure, the conservatives can attack his students when he's not around, such as with Yuji, or hinder the progress of students that might be sympathetic to Gojo's cause, Yuta, Hikari, Maki, but Gojo essentially is untouchable, which makes his plan viable in the first place. The same thing cannot be said about Maki. Maki has gone through unspeakable hardships during her life. This could be said about almost most of our Zenin protagonists, namely Mai, but Maki especially has had an incredible difficult time within the Jujutsu society, and it's because of that her viewpoints on the world are the way they are, and also that's why she might not share the same worldview as Gojo. While Maki obviously agrees with Gojo in the same system is basically, she also had to live with the effects of that system much more than Gojo did. Whether it be the old man meddling within her affairs, her sister being used as blackmail, or just plain physical abuse in general, Maki has had first-hand experiences with the problem that Jujutsu society with Gojo vows to solve. Why is this important? Well, it's not really, but it's something that is important to keep in mind when we think about the motives of Maki and Gojo respectively, because again, while both of them despise the system, the reasons for doing so, reasons for wanting to change it, are likely different. Gojo's reasoning stems from desire to create a better Jujutsu society from those that come after him. Maki's reasoning can include that. She straight out says she wants to create a Zenin clan where people like Mei can be happy, but I think it would be dishonest to ignore one of the other reasons she wants to burn it all down: revenge. That's simple. We have to be honest here. Maki is currently doing what she is doing to the Zenin clan largely to avenge Mei. She definitely might have high and lofty goals for society, but those are not her prime motivator at the moment. Her prime motivator is revenge, and that can be problematic in some ways. While discussing whether or not the Zenin clan deserves to die is a subjective topic that will largely depend on one's own personal moral code, you can't really deny that Maki is taking actions she is simply for the fact that it is what she desires to do so. You can argue that maybe her actions are being done out of self-defense, but literally no one has posed a remote threat to her thus far. It is a completely lopsided battle. No one even tried to. Let's entertain the idea that it's purely out of vengeance for a second. What would be the implications of this? Revenge is a concept that commonly arises in fiction, and is even the core element of many prominent works. You can see it depicted in various ways, but the most common usually either deal with narrative being a power fantasy of some sorts, or main or prime cause for the character to fall from grace, technically. I wouldn't call revenge a major theme in Jujutsu Kaisen, but it certainly pops up here and there. There's a handful of characters who attempt to exact revenge on those who wronged them, or someone else in the narrative. How does these characters turn out? Not good at all. Revenge in this story in particular, revenge in a lot of other stories is a lot better, but in JJK, it ends up just backfiring and it never goes well, like with Choso killing and wanting to kill Yuji because, you know, Kenjaku messed with his head basically. And then once he finally learned that Yuji wasn't, like, you know, a bad person and he didn't kill his brothers, Kenjaku killed his brothers. He ended up switching and he became a good person. I love Choso. Choso is a 10 out of 10 character. But that's another instance of where revenge is kind of, you know, subjective in this story. It's not good at all. The only person who doesn't get immediately affected by the revenge is Goji after he kills Toji. However, I still wouldn't call the death of Toji a positive outcome, as afterwards you see that it didn't really give Gojo the catharsis he is looking for. Something punitive justice really doesn't get to Gojo in that way. Additionally, it lets Geto see the miserableness of a non-sorcerer cult that had Riko killed in the first place, which only further added to the disdain of the non-sorcerers in general. Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't really portray revenge in a positive light. It seems to favor the idea of forgiveness, or at the very least unobtrusive indifference. Characters that are largely sympathetic to, such as Yuta and Panda, are not overtaken by a desire for revenge, but are more understanding of the context these situations arise themselves in. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're happy about the outcome. They shouldn't be, but they choose to put their energy into something constructive rather than funnel it into a vengeful desire. This way of thinking can get scuffed at times, as it can be depicting very poorly in the story, but I think the main reason why it works very well in JJK is because the characters are ultimately don't take revenge, or don't do so because of some high and lofty ideals, or God forbid something akin to if you kill the killer then you're the killer. Their reasoning largely stems for their own motivations and thoughts on the situation at hand. Yuta could get pissed at Yuji for accidentally cutting off Inuyukai's arm, but what would that ultimately accomplish? Panda could get pissed at Gaku Kanji for killing Yaga, but he realizes that Gaku Kanji is just another cog in the machine he is trying to break. So to summarize this far, Jujutsu Kaisen does not portray revenge positively, but it doesn't offer a more nuanced answer that's simply forgiveness to those who wronged you. So using this logic, we can deduce that Maki is taking revenge. She is in the wrong. But that's pretty unsatisfying, right? It doesn't feel good. There's a fundamental difference between opting to kill the person who had the orders to kill your dad and killing your dad who's tried to kill you. As I said before, I'm not really interested in figuring out if Maki's actions were right or wrong, because spoiler alert, they're probably somewhere between the two. I'm just more interested in analyzing how that could affect Maki. We need to go a step deeper here and look at the connotation behind the idea of revenge. Maki seeking vengeance on Ogi, Jinichi, and Naiwa makes sense, given that they're old men in the clan who made her life a hell to begin with. But what about the Kukuru unit? They're established to be a unit in which males with no curse energy are forced to enroll in. As we've seen with Maki firsthand, those without curse energy are treated terribly in the Zenin clan. Why would these people be any different? They can't actually leave the clan either, as if they were the case when Mai would have been paced out long before her tragic death. Additionally, these people are also likely being manipulated, as it's implied that only Jinichi and Naiwa were the only ones in Ogi's plan of killing his daughters. They only knew exactly why Maki is acting like she is, but they weren't too keen on telling their subordinates. Also, take into account how they actually portray Toji to be one of the younger members of the clan. They depict him as one of the greatest possible threats to the Zenin clan, which gives their subordinates all the more reasons to think they need to kill Maki, because Maki, you know, equals Toji. Do the non-leaders of the Zenin clan likely perpetrate the issues that Maki and Mai face within the clan? Yes. Are they all good people? Probably not. Do they deserve to die because of this? I can't really bring myself to say yes. These people are simply pawns in the games of the same hierarchical old men that made Maki's life hell. They have been manipulated and threaded into the submission, likely with the indoctrination of years of propaganda that continually continues with the corruption within the Jujutsu society as a whole. Maki taking vengeance on these people fundamentally ignores the fact that these people were put in this situation in the first place by the higher ups. It further perpetrates of the failure of the corruption of the system that the old man control. Maki didn't take vengeance against the higher ups in the Zenin clan, but ultimately hurt victims of the system in the crossfire as well. Maki has effectively done what Gojo wanted to avoid, a violent takeover of a segment of a Jujutsu society. If we are to heed his wording, then people will likely start distrusting Maki and anyone associated with her. It might give the higher ups even enough support to fully get rid of the remnants of the Gojo's rebellion in general, with the additional facts that she would likely be spun into a complete aggressor. I wouldn't be too optimistic going forward. Going forward is going to be the worst for the Jujutsu Kaisen world, which is in dire need of someone that is strong enough to defeat Sakuta and Kenjaku. Now, by the time I'm making this script, Kenjaku has already been killed with it, or his head is cut off, or his brain somewhere, I'm not too sure, by Yuta. Hopefully Maki makes a decent decision about what to do in the future of JJK. With being a very strong character, she can use powers for the good and rebuild the Zenin clan, or take control and help rebuild the Jujutsu foundation that has been in place since the Heian era. Maki's way of doing revenge is up for question, but understanding her moral choices will always be up for question. Though Maki is a great character for the JJK verse, her presence after Gojo's death and maybe the defeat of Sukuna later in the story will be monumental for creating a new Jujutsu world that Mai and herself will be proud of.